Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wal aqibatu lil muttaqeen. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Respected brothers and elders, mothers and sisters, today is a very special Jum'ah, a very unique Jum'ah, a Jum'ah that I would like to address this Jum'ah to my wife. But this Jum'ah is not just for my wife. The Jum'ah is for anyone and everyone that will go through the same journey that my wife is going through, and that is losing a beloved one. Now, how do we know that we will experience this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقَصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us, surely, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ, most definitely, you will be tested in this world from many things, and from those things you will be tested with the loss of life. We will lose loved ones. And this will be one of the hardest tests that we have to go through. There's a journey, and the journey that we take in this world, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed certain beautiful people with us on this journey. And the longer that we spend this journey together, the more our hearts become intertwined and connected. Some of these connections will be through blood, and some of these connections will be through affiliation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would allow our paths to intertwine and become part of the definition of our world. Can you imagine when a beloved one who is a father or a mother that passes away? It's something that is, we know it's going to happen, but when it happens, it's as if we never knew the day will come. It is something that is difficult. My wife's father passed away a few days ago. And it was a shock to us because he was very young. And he was all the way in South Africa. And it becomes difficult, and looking at my wife, someone that is beloved to me. I've lost people in my life, but to see someone that is so close to me lose someone so beloved to me, it was something that was very different. Trying to understand the pain that they go through. So I wanted to dedicate this Jum'ah to my wife and to all of us that have lost beloved ones and will also witness and feel the loss of a loved one. The first thing I want to speak about is that in Islam there is no harm in remorsing. Sometimes we have this culture, this belief that in Islam we cannot cry when we lose someone beloved, and we even advise the person that do not cry. This is from Allah. This is from Allah, but crying is rahmah. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when his beloved uncle Hamza radiallahu an passed away, and you can read about it in the Battle of Uhud, the statement that came out of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam's mouth as he was crying was, who will cry for my beloved uncle today? Who will be there to cry for my beloved uncle today? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam's beloved son passed away. And the Prophet of Allah at the age of 2 years old, anyone that has children know, 2 years old is a difficult age to lose a child. A newborn is one thing, but a 2-year-old child, there's this certain bond. They start picking up things, they start doing things that are very funny. They start putting sentences together. You start to have this bond, especially as a father. Even the baby's small, as a father, there's not much you can do. But as the child starts to develop, the first person that he looks to is the father. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah tests the Prophet of Allah that every child of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away except for Fatima. Every child died before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam except for Fatima Zahra. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is crying. And a Sahaba says, "Oh Prophet of Allah, are you crying? Are you crying for your son's passing away?" Because it was strange to them. This was this Jahiliyyah, this Bedouin belief that you could not cry for someone that has passed away. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is showing us that it is okay to cry and to feel sad for a beloved one. And doesn't matter what issues we had with our blood relation. At the end of the day, when a person leaves this world, the only thing we remember is the beauty and goodness that that person had done for us. It's as if the moment that that person passes away, all of these ill feelings or misunderstanding becomes cleared, and it becomes clear to us how beloved we were in the eyes of the beloved one that we have lost. So my respected brothers, the first thing I wanted to speak about is that it is okay, it is ibadah, it is natural, it is human to cry. And we, as the ones that witness our loved one losing a loved one, we need to be there to consolidate. We need to be there to shower mercy, because this is the religion of Islam, the religion of peace. Number two, when people pass away, we have this idea that we can judge what is the outcome of the person who passes away by looking at the body or the circumstance of a person. When it comes to khair, mashallah, they died on a Friday, alhamdulillah. I saw them moving their tongue, perhaps it was the shahada, alhamdulillah. Anything that is positive, we should always say, mashallah, this is from the qudra, this is from the raham, this is from the mercy and the power of Allah. But what we should never do is look at the deceased and say, this is not the death, this is not how it's supposed to be, this is a bad death, this is something that we do not know, and we should not play God when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes a person. This is a mistake that I have seen several times in my life, that people look at the dead, alhamdulillah, if it's khair, this is the system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the way of Allah, that we should encourage the loved one. MashaAllah, my dear, he died on a Friday. He died with Iman. He left behind beautiful children. Show them the signs of the mercy of Allah that we can never fathom. وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. If you try and count the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will never be able to do so. Remind the loved one that Allah is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Allah knows that we make mistakes. Allah knows that we sin. But Allah is Ghafoor Rahim. Do not be part of those that look at the deceased and try to interpretate a very bad ending. This is not part of our deen. That is in the judgment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and only Allah alone. So number one, it is okay to remorse. Number two, when the deceased passed away, paint a picture of the rahmah of Allah, the blessing of Allah upon the deceased. Have hope in Allah. لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله. Number three, the questions always asked that, oh, my beloved husband or my beloved wife, or I never gave my haqq. You start to regret. You start to feel this pain that I never did enough. I could have done more. How much my parents did for me. And it's clear to you what they had done for you. And what is now highlighted is that I never done enough. To answer this, there's a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A Sahaba comes to the Prophet of Allah and he says, Ya Rasulullah, my father has passed away. Ya Rasulullah, my father has passed away and my heart is aching. O Prophet of Allah, is there anything that I can do for my father after he has demise, after he has passed away? And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, yes, there are three things that you can do after the demise of your beloved one. Number one, whoever was your father or your mother's friends, admire them, be kind to them, affiliate with them after the demise of your parents. Another hadith mentions that treat your auntie, your mother's sister, right, for in the absence of your mother, your auntie becomes your mother. So if we want to honor our parents, honor those who our parents honored whilst they were alive. So if our father or our mother were divorced and they had a new wife or new husband, then treat them how your beloved one would have treated them for the sake of your parents. This is something that is beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number one. Number two, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, whatever good they have taught you, implement the khair, the goodness in your life. Whatever goodness, my father liked to joke, joke and remember that I am joking because my father used to like to joke. If your father used to love to give sadaqah, then give sadaqah because your father loved to give sadaqah. If your father was a person that always smiled, smile because your father taught you how to smile. Any good deed that your beloved one taught you, inculcate those good deeds in your life. Number three, ithari thawab. Remember our parents in our du'as. My father says to me, I am 73 years old, my son. Who's going to remember my father after I pass away? We remember our grandfather for some like my father, but the reality is after one generation we are forgotten. So my father says, in my time, I look at my time, my life, the clock is ticking, and I ask myself, have I done enough to remember my father in my du'as? Whenever I give sadaqah, am I giving sadaqah on behalf of my parents? Am I giving sadaqah on behalf of my parents? So my respected brothers, every time we go into sujood, remember our parents. Every time we make dua, never let a dua go by without remembering our parents. What is the dua that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us? Rabbi ighfirli ولوالدي وارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا رب اغفر لي. My dear brothers, after me. رب اغفر لي ولوالدي وارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. What is the dua? Oh Allah, Rabbi ighfirli, oh Allah, forgive me. Rabbi ighfirli wa liwalidayya, and forgive my parents and shower mercy upon them how they showered mercy upon me when I was small. Beautiful dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us. Rabbi ighfirli wa liwalidayya وارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. I tell my wife that every time, my love, that you remember that moment that your father came with a special chocolate for you, and you were starving at school and you looked at the boundary and you saw your father coming with a gift. That excitement, that adrenaline that you felt, that safety that you felt around your father. Every time you remember your father, remember the dua, Rabbi ighfirli wa liwalidayya warhamhuma kama rabbayani saghira. Rabbi ighfirli wa liwalidayya warhamhuma kama rabbayani saghira. The most hardest part is to say goodbye to your parents. One of the hardest parts in our life is saying goodbye to our parents. But as a believer, know, my respected brothers and elders, we will reunite with our parents again. That's the beauty of our deen, is al-Islam. That this life is temporary. This life is short. This life is fragile. This life is the shortest part of an everlasting journey. Love, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, you will be risen on the day of Qiyamah with those that you loved in this world. My dear brothers and elders, remember that remorse is the acknowledgement that your friends will forget you. How many people we visit in prison? And they're like, my boys will be there for me, my boys will be there, my boys, your boys will not be there for you. They'll put money in your account, 2 months, 3 months, 1 year. Khalas, your friends have forgotten you. But wallahi, wallahi, I have seen in my 20 years as an Imam in Australia, mothers, 60-plus-year-old, traveling 2.5 hours every single week without a doubt, without skipping a beat, going through all the protocols to get to the jail just to see their son. They've forgotten what their son was locked up for. They've forgotten the embarrassment that their son was gave them in going into prison. And leaving all that aside because of the love that they have for that child. Taking out their pension money. Taking out their pension money, very little. That is who's going to be there, my dear brothers. Wallahi, your friends will leave you. Your friends will leave you. They will sell you out. But there are two people in this world that will never sell you out. They will always be there, and that's your parents. But yes, Sheikh, you don't know my father. I don't need to know your father. Everyone expresses love in very different ways. Some of our fathers were very hard. But that was the way that they expressed their love. Some of our parents, they were absent. But I promise you, as a father, every father still makes dua for their child. Whether they are absent or not, they are making dua for you. Do not waste your life in trying to understand and comprehend the love of a father until you become a father. It's too late. Know that our parents love us in ways that no one in this world will love us more than our parents. And that is why the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us how to make dua for our parents. رَبِّ اغْفِرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيَّ وَارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا رب اغفر لي ولوالدي وارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا كما ربياني صغيرا كما ربياني صغيرا والحمد لله رب العالمين.